respected journalist, an advocate, and a visionary leader, now a key voice in advancing meaningful dialogue on migration, development, and nation building. As the chairperson of the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, he spearheads vital programs and policies that promote and uphold the interests, rights, and welfare of our kababayan worldwide, ensuring that the contributions and stories of the Filipino diaspora remain at the heart of nation's progress. Let us all welcome in person the Secretary of the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, Dante Klink the second. Magandang gabi po sa inyo and welcome to our program.
Thank you for having me on your program.
Yes. Ito po, pag-usapan natin ang unang-una ang mandato po ng Pangulo dito po sa inyong komisyon.
Well, marami nga po nagtatanong sa amin, ano ba yung kinaiba namin sa DMW?
Yes, that's right.
And in a way, you can say po na kung saan nagtatapos yung trabaho ng DMW, doon po nagsisimula yung trabaho ng CFO. So yung DMW po is in charge of overseas workers, what we call temporary migrants. Sa CFO naman po yung mga permanent migrants.
Yes. So sila yung mga nag-asawa na, nagbago na rin ng nationality?
Yes, sa amin po yun, yung mga spouses po, foreign nationals, at saka po yung mga citizens na ng ibang country, mga anak po nila.
Pati anak nila?
Anak po nila, yes.
Okay. Mga ilang buwan pa lang kayo, no? Medyo bago-bago pa lamang, di ba, dito sa commission. And of course, you came from the private sector. Ano po yung mga observations niyo so far, and what are the initial lessons that you're learning?
Well, tama po kayo, bago lang. I started late October. But I had some inclination na po kung yung trabaho ng CFO because my dad for a while was also CFO chairperson time po ni Mrs. Arroyo. So I'm somewhat familiar during his time what he did. And so
You were observing him?
Well,
more or less
po nautusan paminsan-minsan.
Yeah.
So in a way, I was vaguely familiar with the task and mandate po of CFO. And so I went into it nga po with eyes wide open. Yeah.
Ano mga challenges, yung mga nakikita niyong mga hamon na kailangan niyong harapin, lalong-lalo na nung nagsimula pa lamang kayo sa komisyon?
Well, swerte lang po kung yung CFO is well-run. So I'm lucky for that po that are very good professional public servants po in that agency. Ang sinabi ko lang po sa team namin na gusto ko po talagang palakasin o pagtingin pa yung engagement po namin sa Filipino diaspora. So medyo mahirap po kasi to keep track of the immigrants when they leave. And ang mandate po ng CFO is to connect them back to the Philippines politically, economically, and culturally. And so to implement that mandate po or that vision of the CFO, kailangan po talaga namin is a deeper engagement po with the Filipino diaspora.
But is that difficult? Because Filipinos are really known to be makabayan. O at least yung connection ng isang Pilipino, saan man siya natagpuan sa buong mundo or sa anong parte ng mundo, ando doon yung connect niya eh.
Yes,
dito,
opo.
Diba?
In a way, madali po because on their own, sabi nyo nga po, the Filipinos are very helpful, hindi po sila nakakalimot, despite po siguro of maybe some criticisms we hear about Filipinos who go abroad for greener pastures. Hindi pa rin po nawawala sa puso nila yung pagmamahal sa Pilipinas. And I've seen this myself, having lived abroad during my younger years.
Oh, where did you live?
Well, I stayed in the US po for high school and college, and then I, for a while, worked at the Philippine Consulate sa Toronto in Canada. Back po, a long time ago when my hair was still black. 30 pounds ago, I used to say.
Well, we also lived abroad. So, 8 years kami sa Japan.
Oh.
So, nakikita ko rin yung buhay ng mga Pilipino doon at yung kanilang, although they want to work and earn more, pero doon pa rin yung desire to come back to the Philippines someday.
Yes, and hindi po talaga nawawala talaga yung pagmamahal sa Pilipinas. And the biggest challenge na po siguro sa amin is how to channel all of this concern and tulong na ginagawa nila into meaningful impactful programs that will contribute more to national development.
So, what kind of adjustments did you have to make when you shifted into government service? Because iba rin ng takbo ng private organization versus ito, no? Being part of the government.
Well, you've been in media for a while. You know that there's a lot of interaction. Our circles overlap with government, you know, in media. So in a way, there's that. But siguro, dati po kasi ako yung boss eh. So ngayon,
I know.
I'm the public servant. And I have to keep that in mind. Tukso ko nga po sa mga kakilala ko now, I have to report to work much earlier.
Yes.
And just can't come in like I used to.
But you're still the boss now, pero iba yung pagiging boss sa isang private company.
Well, in a way po,
times.
iba po yung mindset kasi. So, mas siguro ramdam ko po ngayon na talaga yung mandate po ng office, of any public office po, to do public service.
And there's also the president that you have to
Of course.
Report to, right?
Well, we serve under his pleasure, but and our office po is under the office of the president.
Yes. Okay, so ano ang sinabi niya sa inyo? Personally?
Wala naman po. Galingan lang daw. At generally po ang instructions niya, and this is something that's repeated by Secretary Hans Kakdak of DMW, gusto niya po talaga sa mga sinisilbihan po natin, red carpet daw, hindi red tape. So talagang we took that to heart.
And when this appointment came in October, were you surprised? Meron bang mga pahaging o may mga hints here and there that you would end up in this position?
Very little po, but none of which I took seriously. Alam niyo naman po sa Philippines, maraming mga kwento-kwento. And mahirap naman po talagang umaasa or maganda based on mga kwento. So I just kept on. There were some talks, but nothing concrete until I think the very last few days that the appointment was coming down.
Was this a decision that you had to think about long and hard, or was it an easy decision?
Well, we had to think about it long and hard po because I've invested a lot of my professional career building up a newspaper, and so when I got this appointment, kailangan ko po bitawan yung posisyon ko doon bilang chairman and CEO. At buti na lang po, I have a good management team there. And then siguro, part na rin po naman dato ko, kinonvince ko po yung sister ko na nasa Amerika na bumalik dito at siya muna magpatabo ng Manila Times.
Meron ba kayong mga nais makamit na mga targets while you are the chairperson of the CFO?
We have a lot of programs po that we want to pursue. But I think in broad terms po, personally, I want to reverse the narrative po from brain drain to brain gain. Kasi nga po, isa sa mandato talaga ng CFO is to connect the Filipino diaspora back to their home country. And sabi nyo nga po, talagang nakita na rin po natin, di ba, na nasa abroad po tayo, talagang matulungin po mga Pilipino at saka kung sila po talaga masusunod, mas gugustuhin po talaga nila dito. And I think without government's intervention, they do things to help their families, their hometowns, and siguro ang gusto nga po namin talaga mangyari is to create impactful programs para mas ma-channel pa yung concern nila and tulong nila into something that will contribute meaningfully to national growth.
Yes, kanina nabanggit ninyo na where the DMW's work ends is where yours begins.
In a way po.
Oo. Pero meron bang time na nag-overlap?
Oh,
yes. Like how do you manage the overlapping?
Well, we have been in constant discussion and contact with the DMW. Isa po si Sec Hans ang binisita ko nung na-appoint po ko. Kasi marami po kami kailangan talagang pagtulungan. Minsan po kasi yung mga Filipino alis ng bayan natin as a contract worker, and then while abroad, nagbabago yung status nila, so they fall now under the jurisdiction of the CFO. Yung mga anak po ng mga OFWs, a lot of them want to enroll their children in Philippine schools. Kasi po, alam nilang babalik sila sa Philippines, so gusto po nila yung seamless transition ng anak nila from abroad back to our system. Siyempre po, ayaw naman nilang umulit ng grade level yung anak nila or high school level yung anak nila, sayang yung oras at resources.
Yes, okay. I want to talk about the Philippine schools. Babalikan po natin yung paksang iyan. Maya-mayang konti po lamang, kaya wag po kayong mawawala at marami tayong pag-uusapan dito po sa ating programang In Person.
Titiyakin namin na maipapatupad ang mga plano upang maipababa ang presyo ng pagkain, lalong-lalo na ang bigas. Itutuloy namin ang mga hakbangin upang mapunan ang kakulangan sa mga gusaling pampaaralan at ang mga computer ng mga eskwelahan. Sisiguruhin natin na tuloy-tuloy at mas lalawig pa ang mga benepisyo ng lahat ng Pilipino sa ilalim ng PhilHealth.
Nagbabalik po ang in-person. Kasama natin ngayong gabi si Secretary Dante Klink ang the second. Okay, so pag-usapan natin yung mga Philippine schools. It was surprising for me to see the children of our OFWs or our migrants, let's say in the Middle East, pumapasok sila sa Philippine schools.
Yes.
What is the rationale behind establishing Philippine schools?
Well, as I said before the break, marami mga OFWs na gusto nila yung anak nila pumasok sa Philippine school abroad because alam po nila babalik sila dito sa Philippines. At pagbalik po nila dito, gusto po nila yung seamless yung transition nila sa educational system natin. Kasi ayaw nga naman po nilang umulit ng grade level.
Iba ba talaga ang ating yung standard natin?
Well, iba po yung curriculum of every country po.
Depending on the country.
Yes. So, yung Philippine schools overseas po follow the Philippine curriculum.
Yes.
So, they're regulated by the CFO, but we work with the Department of Education po in regulating these schools. There are 34 schools right now all over the world, most of them in the Middle East.
Yes.
And meron nga po kung pupunta itong January, conference nila. So, I haven't, I begged off a lot of sa mga traveling sa office, but this one I cannot avoid because lahat po sila nasa isang lugar sa Saudi Arabia. So it'll be good for me to meet the school owners as close as Cambodia and as far po as Greece. But many of them po are in the Middle East.
So these are worldwide Philippine schools.
Yes.
Ang ganda, no?
So parang international school po, pero follow Philippine school abroad, overseas.
But you said these are privately owned. This is not exactly government owned.
No, these are private enterprises.
Right.
But they comply po with the educational curriculum and requirements po of the Philippines.
Okay, and of course marami po dyan para maging nationalistic pa rin sila. Kilala ba nila ang Pilipinas?
Well, that's the aim. Kasi po, tinuturo po talaga nila yung Philippine curriculum, kung ano po yung tinuturo po dito sa atin. At yun po talaga ang habol nila na pagbalik nila dito, mas madali po sila makakapasok sa sistema natin.
Ano itong U-Lead program po ninyo? What is this?
As I said po kanina, yung mandate, isa po sa mga mandate ng CFO is to connect the Filipino diaspora back to the Philippines. Yung U-Lead po is a program kung saan po nag-organize po ang CFO ng mga program for cultural immersion po para sa mga anak po ng mga Filipino immigrants abroad. Kasi po, karamihan sa kanila, either doon na pinanganak or doon na lumaki. Yung isang batch po last year from Korea, hindi rin po na sila marunong mag-Filipino. May nahirapan sila mag-English because Korean na po yung nakasanayan nila. So the parents want to connect them to their Filipino roots. At yun po yung tinutulong ng CFO, gumawa po ng program at cultural immersion para sa kanila.
It's actually nakakatuwa, if I may say. In Italy, yung mga kabataan doon hindi na marunong mag-Filipino and they speak
Good Italian.
Pero pinapapasok sila sa Philippine schools para matuto silang mag-Filipino. Meron bang mga Philippine schools na local dialect natin, like mas marami Ilocano dito sa lugar na to. So Ilocano, yung mode of
yung
teaching?
mode of instruction po ngayon is, I think, what you find here in the
Still the
Philippines.
same.
Opo, pero pinag-uusapan nga po sa educational sector ngayon yung mother tongue-based education. Pero I think medyo hindi pa po yata handa tayo doon. May mga back and forth debate about that. At kung ano po yung adapt dito, yun din po ang adapt sa mga Philippine schools or overseas.
Okay, so you said that the curriculum is closely guarded, right? But they have some flexibility to also include the local culture where they're living in.
They have to have some flexibility po because they also have to comply dun sa mga educational requirements ng host country. Pero may minimum requirements po kung ano yung susundin nila with regard to with the Philippine curriculum.
And once a student, a Filipino student, graduates in these schools, sabi niyo nga seamless, so talagang walang no questions asked, yung kanilang standard, pasado rin sila rito.
Recognition credits nila, so wala nang question. Kasi po pag pumunta sila sa ibang schools abroad, baka merong mga questions about yung accreditation, yung recognition, lalo na po sa Middle East na medyo iba po yung culture. So, maganda na rin po na ang kakasanayan talaga nila yung sa atin.
So, paano sinisiguro po ng CFO na talagang okay itong mga Philippine schools na ito?
Well, one thing po is we communicate with them and bibisitahin ko nga po when
you get there.
When I get there po sa Riyadh, it's actually po a conference, it's an association of Philippine Schools Overseas conference. So like I said, marami po na mga Philippine schools overseas will be there, at least the owners. And while I'm there, I'm going to visit din na rin po 7 schools in Riyadh itself. Marami pa po meron pa pong iba sa Saudi Arabia at marami pa po sa Middle East. But while I'm there in Riyadh, I'll visit hopefully all of the 7 schools based there.
Yeah, ang laki-laki din kasi ng Saudi.
Malaki po yung region at saka marami pong Pilipino dun eh.
Yes. Okay, so are there plans to establish more Philippine schools abroad?
Well, there are applications po, but there are certain requirements na pinapatupad po ng CFO. So, may mga nag-apply na rin po, but they're still, I think, trying to comply with all of the requirements. But sa ngayon po, 34 all over the world.
34.
34.
Okay, so they will be comparing notes and they will be reporting to you dito sa Riyadh
I think
conference.
in Riyadh, they'll talk about best practices, mga changes sa DepEd orders, how they comply, and best practices po for the schools.
Well, you said that it will be the curriculum that we teach here, no? Pero like because they live abroad, would it be perhaps more helpful for them if they had more Filipino language or maybe more of our history, our culture?
Makakatulong po yan. And one of the things po na ginagawa ng CFO, meron kaming Virtual Center Rizal. Pinag-uusapan po namin yan paano kami makapag-offer at least maybe online some Filipino lessons. We had some preliminary meetings with KWF, yung Commission ng Wikang Pilipino.
Yes.
And but we need to formalize po our collaboration at saka decide po on what type of Filipino offering, language offering we will offer.
Okay, nag-join forces po ang CFO at ang DMW kamakailan. And ito'y para patatagin pa yung tinatawag nating reintegration program or efforts natin para sa, well, una-una para sa mga OFWs. But because OFWs is really under the DMW, meron din bang ganong effort ang CFO for those who actually married abroad but they decided that maybe they want to live here?
Well, we collaborate with DMW po on a number of things. Reintegration po is one of them. Ang isa pong pinag-uusapan namin yan, possibly a database sharing agreement, some of the other programs po nila. Kasi po, like I said, minsan po maalis sila sa OFW pero while abroad, they change the status, naging permanent immigrant sila. So, marami po talagang overlap.
Yes.
Then yung mga areas of responsibility namin. So, marami po kami talagang na-explore at isa lang po lamang yan. But meron pa po mga iba. So, meron kaming program called Balitang Bayan.
Yes.
So, linilink po namin yung mga Filipinos abroad with their hometowns and there are many types of engagements po doon. So, one, familiarization with their hometowns, lalo na po sa mga anak nila. But also to share with them opportunities maybe to do business, to invest, and things of that nature.
Okay. There's something happening in the U.S. because with the new president that's about to take office, no? Right. Meron siya mga declaration tungkol sa mga illegal and immigrants. Oh, actually illegal, well, we call them aliens, but sila mga migrants na hindi talaga walang papel. So we will talk about that. I want to know what we are doing. Are we preparing for that in the event na mangyari nga po yung mass deportation or pagpapauwi po sa kanila, hindi lang naman sa mga Pilipino pero sa lahat ng mga nationalities. So alamin po natin yan sa pagpapatuloy ng In Person.
May mga nagsasabi na ang Pilipinas daw is a rich country pretending to be poor. Siguro hindi tama yun. We are actually a rich country which do not realize that we are rich. Mga kaibigan, samahan niyo po ako ng ating Tuklas Yaman.
At nababalik po tayo dito sa In Person. Balikan po natin yung nabitin na tanong tungkol nga po doon sa maaring mangyari sa Amerika sa pag-upo ng bagong Pangulo po nila na si US President Donald Trump. At ito nga po yung pagpapauwi sa mga undocumented migrants or immigrants. So kasama natin doon sa pinaplano po siguro ng CFO kung ano po yung magiging approach natin. Meron na po ba kayong mga binalangkas na guidelines or suggestions?
Well, right now po, we're closely monitoring the situation. Napag-usapan na rin po namin yung SecHans na pagtutulungan po namin yung pag-monitor. Pero I think yung anxiety po is caused by yung statement po ni President-elect Trump na maghihigpit daw yung border control nila at magma-mass deportation daw. But sa totoo po marami po talagang pinag-uusapan dun Mabuti na lang po siguro, antayin na lang natin until mag-assume po si President Trump. And I think by then po malalaman natin kung ano talaga yung direction ng immigration policy niya.
Have you gotten any formal requests from organizations, Filipino organizations in America, for instance?
None po to the CFO, but siguro po maybe DFA, but narinig ko rin po yung statement ni Ambassador Romualdez nung nakaraan, telling people to really just wait for the official announcement, and sa tingin niya nga po yata ang unahin daw yung mga criminals daw
Yes,
or
mga bad records.
Yes. And sa totoo naman po mga Pilipino, hindi naman po
Hindi tayo doon
Hindi tayo po doon
Hindi tayo doon.
Yes.
And very productive po ang mga Pilipino.
Yes.
I'm just thinking, bakit nga po ba nagkakaganon? Bakit tumadami? Di ba we have a favorite terminology, we call them TNTs. Dahil tago sila ng tago. Pero bakit nga po ba umaabot sa ganon?
Well, siguro po the individual situations are different, but siguro the underlying common factor siguro po is economic. But even then po, as I said, I lived abroad overseas, and I've seen people who come from families who could do well dito sa atin, pero siguro pinili na lang mag-ibang bansa. So siguro mga personal reasons na rin po siguro yun.
And then pag yung kanilang official, let's say, visa status ay nag-lapse na, hindi na nila ma-renew or hindi nila mabago. Kaya nagtatago sila.
Well,
Ganun ba?
yung CFO po, one of the things that we work on is itong EVP, yung Exchange Visitor Program.
Yes.
Kung saan po yung mga Filipinos go to the US for a temporary visit or training. Ang hangarin po ng program na nagbalik yung nakaalaman nila, yung technology dito po sa atin. Marami rin po siyempre na sumusubok na baka ma-extend pa yung time nila doon. Pero karamihan naman po talaga bumabalik. So, mahirap po siguro tumbukin talaga kung ano yung pinaka-reason. But because as I said po, I've seen families or individuals na may kakayahan naman dito at for personal reasons andun sila. Pero ang objective po ng Marcos government is really to create an economic atmosphere po dito.
Yes.
Na kung saan po talaga na mas gugustuhin ng mga kababayan natin dito, at kung mag-ibang bansa po sila, it's simply a matter of choice.
Yes.
Not necessity.
Not necessity. Base po sa datos ng CFO, no? Ang Amerika nga po ay isa sa mga pangunahing destinasyon ng mga registered Filipino immigrants.
Yes.
And ano po ang mga hakbang at programa ng CFO para matulungan po ang mga Pilipino, lalo na po sa aspeto ng cultural adaptation, for instance, o kaya access to services, yung pong pagpapanatili din nila ng connection nila sa Pilipinas.
So isa po sa mga cornerstone programs po ng CFO, ito po yung pre-departure orientation seminar. So ang isa sa mga major things na ginagawa po namin is hinahanda po namin yung mga immigrants na maging successful sa paglipat nila sa abroad. So ginagawa po namin to through seminars before they leave, at batas na rin po na hindi sila talaga makakaalis kung hindi po sila dumaan sa seminar na yun.
Mga PIDOS.
Mga PIDOS po. And meron din po mga group counseling for their children, age 13 to 19. Kasi po iba naman po yung requirements kasi nung adults or young adults kasi po dun sa mga children po nila. So in a way, this was an effort po of CFO to tailor fit yung content nung orientation para po mas smooth po yung transition nila. And by doing so po, mas capable sila na mag-connect sa atin.
And off the air, we were talking about there doesn't seem to be any Filipino who does not have a relative who lives abroad, whether he's an OFW or whether he's a permanent resident there. Hindi po ba? Na tayo merong connection.
Yes, you're right. And alam nyo, feeling ko nga po medyo underappreciated tong sector na to. Of course po, ang OFW, tinatawag natin mga bagong bayani natin. Pero in a lot of ways po, lalo nun sa pagtulong sa Pilipinas, marami po mga kababayan natin na hindi naiba na rin yung malasakit nila sa pamilya nila at sa mga nangyayari po dito.
Not necessarily, hindi na sila nagtatrabaho na may kontrata, pero sila yung nanirahan na doon, nag-asawa na doon, nagkapamilya na doon. Pero ganun pa rin yung kanilang tulong, di ba? Nagpapadala pa rin sila ng mga...
They invest, they visit, all these po are welcome po talaga for our growth objectives.
Yes. Although, ang mga OFWs kasi na nasa ilalim ng DMW ay meron talagang takdang panahon na sila'y mawawala. Dito po sa mga Filipinos who live abroad, parang wala tayong alam Do they really plan to live there forever? Diba? When they retire, do they plan to come back here? Paano naman po yung mga marriages na wala na, naghiwalay na sila, nag-divorce na sila? What happens to them? Do we have a record or some kind of monitoring on the status of these families?
Well, isa po yan sa mga tinitingnan ng CFO. Kasi nga po, tama kayo, medyo may problema po yan. Because po in the Philippines, hindi po recognize yung divorce. Although may mga iba pong situational factors po tinitingnan, whether they were married here or married there. So kung saan po talaga may mga legal, I'm not a lawyer po, but it concerns nga po to. For example, in Japan, pag sila po na-divorce na, for instance,
doon recognized, dito hindi.
Hindi recognized dito, and more to the point po, kailangan silang bumalik dito or pababalikin sila ng Japanese government dito because kung hindi po sila Japanese citizen pa. Yes.
I see. So when they...
So yung pag-stay po nila, nakatali po yun sa marriage nila sa Japanese.
So when a Filipina marries, let's say, a Japanese and they divorce, she is expected to return to the Philippines.
I think by the Japanese.
By their law.
Unless po na binago po nila yung status nila while they're there.
You had a meeting or may ugnayan po ba kayo sa Saitama Bar Association? And I think this is something that they are looking into also.
Well, a group of lawyers po from Saitama Prefecture, bumisita po sila dito sa Philippines for a study tour. So their objective really is to understand the Philippines, meet their counterparts, at bumisita nga po sila sa amin to talk about what CFO does. And nagtatanong sila kung may mga client daw ba silang underwent divorce or may mga ibang kailangan, maybe victims of human trafficking or may mga ibang other issues kasi po yung ibang cases nila has to do with inheritance So nagtatanong po sila kung ano po yung role ng CFO, saan po sila pwedeng lumapit, and assurance naman po namin sa kanila is that they can connect with us, and kung hindi man po kami yung tamang kausap, at ituturo po namin or i-link po namin sila sa tamang agency. But isa po sa pinopose namin sa kanila is to maybe have some sort of partnership or collaboration. Kasi karamihan po dun sa mga attorneys from Saitama na pumunta dito, marami po sana may mga Filipino clients po. And tinatanong din po namin sa kanila, for instance, ano po ba yung situation or yung government offering sa Japan, meron po ba silang katumbas ng PAO natin dito, and meron naman daw. So they shared a lot of information po that were very useful that we hope to also share with the other government agencies para po pag may tanong sa kanila, pwede po namin silang masagot ng tama.
Ano po bang serbisyo ang CFO sa mga returning, let's say, wives who have no longer, di ba, have been divorced?
Well, we work po with other agencies, DMW na po, isa para for reintegration. Pero sila po talaga yung lead doon. At of course, we work po with the Foreign Service Post abroad para po kung habang nandun pa sila, ano po yung mga kakailanganin nila dito po sa atin. Lalo na po kung ang status nila yung citizenship po nila hindi na Filipino na. So
yes, what about those na nag-dual citizenship or those who actually took on the new citizenship?
That's why I was saying po in a while ago na kung saan nagtatapos yung DMW, doon nagsisimula yung sa amin. Because po even if they have acquired foreign citizenship, na nasa mandate pa rin po ng CFO ang community na yan, at gusto po nga po namin ilapit sila sa Philippines, politically, culturally, and economically.
Do we look at this as once a Filipino, always a Filipino?
I think so po. And even if they were born abroad, a lot of them really for self reasons. I mean, they do parang soul searching, ano ba yung roots ko sa Philippines, and part of their identity na po talaga yung Philippines, whether po they're first, second, third generation abroad. And a lot of them nga po, and we see this with some Hollywood celebrities nga po, di ba, coming here to explore. Sila Olivia Rodrigo went to Intramuros, parang excited siya na makita saan ba nanggaling yung mga ninuno niya.
Yes, sila Bruno Mars, di ba?
Bruno Mars, yes.
Yes.
So hindi po nawawala talaga yung, I think, naniniwala po ako na hindi talaga nawawala yung concern at saka pagmamahal po sa Philippines. And this is something I've seen, so that's anecdotal pa lang po, but this is repeated in many other stories that I've heard from other people.
Nagbabalik po ang in-person para sa huling bahagi po ng ating programa. Kasama natin si Secretary Dante Klink ang the second. Okay, earlier we kind of touched on the situation of Filipino retiring, no? Let's say, yung mga nasa Amerika. I've heard it many times na gusto nila talaga mag-retire dito, pero iniisip nila yung kanilang social security. Paano na yung kanilang hospitalization, yung kanilang pension, ganyan. Meron po bang ginagawa ang CFO to maybe come up with a system where they can use use their retirement or they can still get their hospitalization benefits here in the Philippine hospital rather than there abroad?
Isa po yan sa gusto ko talagang gusto tabahuin. And to the credit po of the former chairpersons, marami na po rin nagsimula ng trabaho na yan to make the pension and other benefits po portable dito sa atin. Yung isa sa mga achievements po ng DADCOS, yung napatupad niya po na yung NCLEX dito na kukunin. Ito po yung mga exam ng mga nurses. So, imbis po mag-abroad sila para kumuha ng exam, dito na lang po sa Pilipinas. And bago po siya natapos ng termino niya, isa sa mga tinatrabaho niya yun was to lobby to the US government para sa portability ng Medicare, Medicaid. Pinapatulan na tinuloy po yan ni Sec. Melly Nicolas nung sumunod po sa kanya. Tsaka others po, pero mahirap po talaga yung trabaho na yan. And it's something po that I want to continue while I'm at CFO. But not only po with the US, we're looking at portability of benefits in other countries din po. Australia for one. Isa na rin po sa narinig namin yan sa mga bumisita po sa amin na gusto nila mag-retire dito. Pero ang problema nga po, tulad ng sabi nyo, yung mga medical, pension, and other benefits nila, hindi nila makukuha kung nandito sila.
Yes.
So that's one of the things that we're looking at to see what we can do for them.
And even like establishing like retirement communities. Oo, kasi yung iba wala nang masyadong kamag-anak siguro, no? Or they want to live away from the province, no?
Yes.
Meron bang ganong klaseng mga interest pag ninegosyo na it's a type of business, right?
Yes, marami pong talagang marami pong ganyan. Even my own relatives po, talagang may, meron din, like you said, wala pong Pilipino na walang kamag-anak abroad po yata. So, may marami din po mga kilala na talagang naghanap sa mga opportunity dito. Because po, yung pera nila, yung dollar nila, talagang will go much farther here.
I know, right?
than abroad.
Palaki ng palaki nga yung value dito ng dollar
yung
nila.
Ano po nila, yung living status nila, it will be much better here. Kasi dito po kahit paano affordable yung meron kang kasambahay or driver or other people to assist you, lalo na po sa mga elderly.
Yes, and talagang we are known for caregiving.
Yes.
For caregivers all over the world. So, syempre dito, sariling atin, no?
Yeah.
Okay. Kanina you also mentioned a little bit about human trafficking, no? Paano natin din nasisiguro na yung mga nag-abroad, not necessarily to work, but those talagang, yung iba nga, mail order bride,
Yes.
uso pa ba po yun?
Well, bawal po sa batas natin yan.
Yes,
So,
opo.
through our programs, isa na po doon yung pre-departure orientation seminar, ini-screen po yung mga dumadaan doon na make sure that they're not mail order brides. And may mga reasons po rin na kung minsan, dine-delay po yung pag-release ng certificate nila, lalo na po kung halimbawa, for example po lang, kung may criminal record yung foreign spouse or na-discover po ng CFO na ilang beses na pinakasal sa Pilipinas.
Oh my goodness.
Yung mga ganun.
May ganun, ha?
So those are the few things na tinitingnan po ng CFO. And then we sit po in an interagency committee against trafficking po that's also participated by the DOJ and Bureau of Immigration and others po to come up with policies po na para talaga ma-combat yung human trafficking. And based on our records, mukhang maganda naman po yung naging record, and then things seem to be improving. But of course, it's a constant vigilance po kailangan.
How are we disseminating this information? Kasi I know we carry it in the news all the time. Kung hindi mahilig manood ng news, hindi mahilig makinig ng radyo, hindi mahilig magbasa ng Manila Times o ng periodiko, paano na po tayo niyan?
Ito po isa sa mga skill set na dadalhin ko sa CFO ngayon, yung information. Because nga po, marami nga po na-congratulate sa akin sa pagka-appoint. But ang susunod nila tanong, ano nga pa yung CFO? And of course, CFO does important work like we've been talking about sa frontline sa human trafficking. And so one of the things po na ginagawa talaga namin is to review yung information campaign namin to make sure that there's more public awareness, not only po of the dangers, but also of the programs that CFO offers.
Okay, so ano pa po yung mga ibang projects na inyong pinagtutuunan ngayon ng pansin?
Well, yung Philippine Schools Abroad po is one. The ULEAD program po is another. Kasi po yung ULEAD program, program, babaguhin po namin yung format this year. Kasi po in the past, ang nangyayari, may community abroad na susulat sa CFO na gusto nilang padala yung anak nila dito. So gagawa po ng program yung CFO para sa mga anak nila na bibisita. So ang gusto po sana namin gawing formalize yung program. We'll pilot it this year with maybe a short summer program. Kasi ang gusto po sana namin mangyari, yung mga anak po ng Filipinos abroad, ng Philippine diaspora, sila po magkaroon ng global network. Kasi po dati, kung sino pong sumulat, halimbawa po yung Korean Filipino community, gusto nilang magpadala ng anak nila. So sila po lang ng participants. Ang gusto po sana namin, makilala din nila yung mga ka-age nila na are similarly interested in discovering the roots at saka inclined for future leadership roles. It's an immersion program po with the CFO. Iba pa po yung initiatives po ng private educational sector. But ang sa amin po kasi is mainly to expose them and introduce yung culture natin. Hopefully po that they will maybe explore later on a longer stay in the Philippines, maybe to study or to invest or just to baka mga digital nomads, just to spend part of their professional career dito sa atin.
And maybe perhaps we can reverse the brain drain.
Yes.
Na sila naman yung mag-i-infuse ng ng mga karunungan dito.
At sa tingin po namin, maraming offer talaga, maaaring i-offer ang Philippines. Kung sino pa man po, hindi lang po yung mga Filipino diaspora natin. Maganda po yung bayan natin and it's a shame not to share this with our
Yes.
Filipino diaspora.
Yeah, speaking of the brain drain, meron po bang ginagawa ang CFO to combat this or to reverse this?
That's our talagang our focus ngayon. Because by connecting with the Filipino diaspora, then ang intent namin is bumalik sila, whether in the short term, long term, or maybe as we said kanina, baka mag-retire. Yung mga anak nila, maybe to similarly explore opportunities here, professionally, maybe technology transfer, and maybe to see their opportunities in the region. Hindi lang naman po Philippines, but maybe using the Philippines as a springboard, ASEAN, Greater Asia.
Yes, okay. And earlier we were talking about your father being the chairman or the chairperson of the CFO. What about his leadership have you imbibed or are you continuing with?
Well, medyo iba po yung style namin, but siguro po there's added pressure on me.
Yes.
Siyempre po to do well. Because siyempre po, I will hear it from family, yung comparison na ba yung nagawa ng dad ko sa gagawin ko. And of course, besides rin po sa personal desire ko really to do well. This is my first opportunity to head an agency. So I really want to do well and I'm glad naman po that my dad had a good record while he was here and medyo mahirap lang po yung ginawa niya na idalhin dito yung NCLEX but at tapusin yung sinimulan niya nung mga panahon na yun to make those Medicare, Medicaid and other pension benefits
so
portable.
So that started already during his time?
Oh yes, yes.
It's been a long time, ano?
Mahirap po talaga yung paglabi na yun.
Pero NCLEX, ang laking tulong yan because our nurses do not have to go abroad to take this exam.
Yes.
Mahal nga yung exam eh.
Yung pagbiyahe niyo po.
All the more.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So now that you are here, you are heading this commission, anong gusto nyong makita ng mga tao?
I think po talagang to make yung programs po ng CFO top of mind. Not only po dito sa mga kababayan natin dito, but sa mga kababayan po natin abroad. Kasi po, tulad ng napag-usapan po natin, talagang hindi po mawawala sa puso ng Pinoy na tumulong sa mga kababayan o sa bayan nila or just to look for opportunities for themselves. And isa na po sigurong paraan dyan is to look at our programs sa CFO. They can visit po our website, yung cfo.gov.ph. And doon po yung mga ibang detalye about Balitang Bayan, about ULEAD, about Klink and other programs po at CFO where our diaspora po can engage with their hometowns, with other communities, or even sectors or private groups here in the Philippines who are also working po to contribute to national development.
If special message to our audience, please go ahead and
Well,
address them.
salamat po sa mga tumutulong sa ating bayan at sana po ipagpatuloy niyo po yung concern ninyo at kung nag-iisip po kayo kung paano niyo gagawin yan o mga paraan paano gawin yan, I invite you po to look at our website po, cfo.gov.ph. Andun po yung mga details and other information available to you kung paano po kayo makakatulong sa national development po ng ating bayan. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary.
Thank you.
Kalidad na serbisyo para sa mamamayan. Abot sa labas ng bayan. Yan ang patuloy na isinasakatuparan ng Commission on Filipinos Overseas sa ilalim ng pamumuno ni Secretary Dante Klink ang II. Ang maipaabot ang serbisyo ng gobyerno, maprotektahan ang karapatan, kapakanan at kagalingan ng ating mga kababayang Pilipino saan mang panig ng mundo. At yan po ang tunay na mukha sa likod ng mga balita at isyong pinag-uusapan, matapang na humarap at nagpakilala. Ako po si Angelique Lazo at ito ang In Person.